everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Danna Wilberg, and I am here with Linda Potter from Scepter Radio. And we are talking about contact in the desert. Now, the last time we presented some of the interviews we did with Jim Gillihan and Yvonne Smith, and who else do we have?
Dr. Carol Sue Rosen. Oh, the interviews.
The interviews that we did last time. Tonight we are presenting William Brown, and we are going to be talking with Dr. Roger Leir, who is going to be telling us all about the implants that he's been removing from people.
Alien implants.
Alien implants, yeah. So some of the speakers were incredible. Let's do a little recap on the lineup.
Oh gosh, we had a lot of females there this time, which was very nice to see. We had Yvonne Smith, of course, the hypnotist. We had Dr. Let's see, it's Carol Sue Rosen. We had Barbara Harris, who is a historian of the area. She was fabulous on the premises. And we also had Paola Harris, which you don't see her, kind of like George Norrie. They're not at every one of these events. That's all I can think of right off the top of my head.
There were so many.
Yeah.
The lineup was incredible, and we were like chickens trying, scattering around, trying to get as much information as we could to bring back to everybody. So one person that I really am so excited to be presenting to all of you tonight is William Brown. He's a scientist, he's a physicist, and believe me, this information is just going to blow your mind. But try and listen closely because it's so important. He actually is the next Einstein, and he has tapped into the God gene. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, he's taken what Michael Tellinger has taken Sitchin's work, and he's found artifacts that bring Sitchin's theories to life. And then William Brown has then taken the baton from Tellinger, and he's proving what Tellinger is saying about the origins of humankind. It's amazing.
Well, let's take a look. Well, William Brown, you are the celebrity here at this conference. Everybody is so excited about the information that you imparted in your workshop. You want to tell our viewers a little bit about it?
Sure thing. So my presentation, my first presentation was on the living universal matrix. And really what this title is referring to is the idea of an underlying organizational network, underlying information network that interconnects all things. It not only interconnects all things in the universe, but it's also what all things are made out of. So this kind of gets into things like holographic information theory, quantum relativity, quantum physics, biophysics especially, linking the biology with these disciplines. So I talk about it as this living matrix. So a matrix is a network of interconnected cells. So the body is a matrix,
Right.
A living matrix. In a sense, it's many things, obviously. But with holographic information theory, what you're seeing this is a kind of new physics model, a new model in physics. You're seeing that at the root of all things, almost like the fundamental substance of all things, is information.
Right.
It's the information that is feeding in to the system. It comprises the system, but it's producing almost like a virtual reality, a matrix, a living hologram.
So all the sci-fi stuff that we're seeing is actually pretty close to the truth and what you're finding.
Yes, it's sci-fi. What is that but the imagination acting as the conduit of that higher source? That the higher source There's a universal
Right. So these
network.
people are downloading information and thinking that this is something they just made up in their mind, when actually it's information that needs to be imparted.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
Inspiration. I mean, it's like, where does that come from? I talk about the imaginary domain. This is a technical term for hyperdimensional space, 8-dimensional complexified space. They call it the imaginary domain because it's a grid of a coordinate, a complex number coordinate system. So complex numbers are also known as imaginary numbers. And then so they call this 3-dimensional reality the real domain.
Okay.
Now, this is technical term, so it's not that like this is real and the imaginary domain is not real. That's not exactly what is implied by this terminology, but it's there in the wording, because this higher dimensional space is the domain of imagination.
Okay.
It is, and so what is imagination but images? And images is actually what forms our thoughts, the sequence of our thoughts when we're figuring something out, when we're putting together new models and stuff. We're working with images, really. That's the holographic nature here. And so it's real, it's literal. This holographic imagery, this information, this cosmic mind, and the hyperdimensional aspect of it is that it is actually trans-temporal, non-local. So trans-temporal is just that within the mathematics, like of Maxwell's equations defining electromagnetism, Einstein's general relativity, there's no distinction between past, present, and future. That's why it's a space-time. That is.
So when we have a thought, and humor me here because I'm trying to assimilate this. When we have a thought of maybe something that happened in our childhood, and then we have a thought of maybe something we want to do next week, and then there's what we're doing at the moment. Is this what you're talking about? Is all linear? Is all more or less the same thing?
So that that linear sequence of thoughts is more based on our conditioning from being in a linear based reality.
Okay.
Now, I said that a little bit inaccurate, actually. I had to say it like that so that it would make sense. But it's not that we're in a linear based reality. Our reality is nonlinear. It is, so that's a term that is like, what is that supposed to be? but so, linear, that you have like cause and effect,
Right.
a sequence of
Okay.
events. Well, nonlinear in the pure technical sense.
But the fact that we're able to jump, our thoughts are able to jump into different places, is that got to do with conditioning, or you're onto something? Explain it.
I would think in a lot of cases that jumping around with the mind, jumping back to something that happened in childhood, thinking about something in the future, then that kind of jumping around, I mean, in the like technical sense of why that's happening, I see that more as a unconditioning The
Okay.
mind isn't is unconditioned. So in many spiritual practices, the essence of the spiritual practice is in bringing the mind into the present moment, so that you always remain present. And the reason for this is that there is only now. There is only a omnipresent now moment. When you talk about the fundamental nature of the universe, the multiverse, which is more accurate, the oneness that is contained in the multiverse, that is eternal.
Okay.
Now, I think that there's two ways that you can think about eternity. One is something that is eternal is an infinite amount of time. I think that's categorically and technically incorrect or erroneous. Something that is eternal is no time. The only way that the way we mean eternity makes sense is no time at all. And actually, the more advanced physics is getting to that conclusion. There really is no time. So Einstein already dealt it a pretty good blow on that Newtonian absolute time. The science pre-Einstein, the classical physics was that there was an absolute framework to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That there was like this eternal framework that was time, that the universe was placed into that, and the universe was moving and evolving in this framework, this static framework called time, so that something that this observer did would match exactly with the time that this observer felt and did. But with relativity, we know that the emotional state of this person, time passes faster or slower. The speed of this person, time passes faster or slower relative to every other coordinate in the universe. So that was one step towards this.
Okay.
Now, we're really more at the point where there just is no time in the absolute sense. So we have the experience of the passage of time, but so it's real as an experience, obviously, but the reason for this is just that everything in the universe, past, present, and future, in the multiverse, all the different parallel realities, all the different dimensions, all exist right now, exactly as they will always exist. Now, this,
Am I glazing over?
well, so this doesn't make sense because I'm using a linear-based verbiage. I'm describing it in linear terms.
Yes.
This towards the physics of consciousness is actually, to my knowledge, I present the first definition of life.
I think that's amazing. and you know, we were in your workshop, and this was very mind blowing to a lot of people, and very validating in a lot of ways. So
thank you.
we really appreciate all your hard work, and you've just begun. You know, we're going to see so much more of you and your research and your passion and all that. So thank you so much for coming on our show. And,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Okay. Now, Dr. Leir, what a sweetheart. He blew my mind. I didn't know what to expect when I went to his workshop, but here he is, this podiatrist who is talking about removing alien implants from people. And not only did I learn, more about what they're capable of doing, the materials they're using, how it coincides with all these things that we've been learning about at this workshop about the materials are so futuristic, and we're all a part of that.
Yes, and the fact that he's took a big risk in the beginning to come out and to say, hey, this is real, and to be a part of it. So let's take a look at Dr. Leir.
What I started doing, I did as a challenge to prove that such a thing as alien implants was the biggest bag of nonsense I had ever heard in my life. Excuse me.
And then you found an object?
Well, we knew that there was some kind of a metallic object in this lady's toe. In fact, there was two. Mm-hmm. One on one side and one on the other side. It was a big toe of the left foot. And I looked at it, and of course at that time I'd been doing surgery for 25, 30 years, and we use a lot of metal and surgical techniques with fractures and dislocations and all sorts of other things. So sometimes a little bit of this or a little bit of that will get left behind, and then if you look at it on an x-ray, why, you'll see that there's something there. And so when this individual showed me these x-rays, I said, oh, these look like leftovers from a foot surgery. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, she never had a foot surgery.
Oh my. So
I said, can you prove it? So he said, well, and he reached into a bag. It was like an airline captain's bag, unfolds on the top. Reached in, pulled out this huge set of medical records, and handed them to me. And he says, well, if you can find out where she's had a foot surgery, I want to see it. So I said, well, if you let me take the medical records to my room, I'll go through it and I'll let you know tomorrow. So he did, and I looked through and I didn't see anything. And so I came back and I said, well, if you think these objects are so unusual, why don't you just take them out and see what they are? And he says, well, she didn't have any medical insurance and didn't have any money. And I said, well, where does she live? And he said, in Texas. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you get her to California and I'll do the surgery free. You mean that? Are you serious?
So what did you find? What was the object and what was the material?
Well, within that 2 weeks following that conversation, this individual contacted me again, and he said that he had another case with a gentleman with an object in the back of the left hand. And could I do that? And I said, well, I don't do hand surgery, but I have a general surgeon who I could probably talk into doing it. So I called him up and I said, hey, you want to have a couple hours of fun? And he said, oh, we're going to go bowling or what? So I said, no, we're going to operate on someone who might have an alien implant. And he started laughing on the phone and said, have you lost your ever-loving mind? So I said, no, these people insist this is some unusual object and so on. And so we got two cases, one in the hand and one in the foot. So he said, yeah, why not? So we went on and we did these first two surgeries, and right from the get-go we saw things that were unusual. For example, the first object we took out was about a centimeter. There's 2.54 centimeters in an inch. So let's call it a half inch. Well, it was T-shaped. T-shaped, and the T-shaped object was about a centimeter in each direction. This direction and the vertical direction. And that was a pretty good size object to have in a toe, even your big toe, and have no scar. no visible portal of entry. You know, how did it get in there in the first place? I'd, till that time, operated on hundreds, if not thousands, of people who stepped on everything from paper to hair to coral to metal or whatever.
Yeah.
We
Now,
just
was this
take it out.
the T-shaped object? Was this in the hand, or was this?
This
what you
was
found?
in the toe.
In the toe. Okay.
Yeah,
So what
and-
did you find in the hand?
Well, in the hand, on the other side of the same toe
Okay.
was another small, what I call cantaloupe seed-shaped object. And this was exactly like the one that we found in the hand. In fact, when we got them out and you placed two of them together on two different gauze sponges, you couldn't tell the difference from one to the other. But the fellow with the hand case didn't have any scar or portal of entry either, so that was unusual. So the next thing we did was, you know, you got something out and you're kind of excited to see, and it was this strange thing covered with this gray, shiny biological coating. And so we tried to cut it open with a scalpel. Now, a scalpel's pretty sharp, but we couldn't cut through it.
Oh my goodness.
So for the sake of the patient and decent medicine, we just set it aside when I had cleaned it out and closed it up. Then we did the same thing with the other two objects. So we had three objects from two cases.
So how
With-
long did
with
it
the
actually
metallurgy.
get you to get the results?
Well, almost a year
Okay.
before we started in on the metallurgical aspect. I got a copy of the report that they generated, and the only thing that they could compare this to were meteorite specimens.
Oh my goodness.
So, I mean, we know that the fellow didn't walk along and hit something with a meteorite.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd have probably
Right.
no hand.
Exactly.
And we know that the lady didn't step on a meteorite. So then he sent everything out all over again to another world-famous laboratory, which was New Mexico Tech. And they did further testing and came out with further conclusions on rare earth elements and isotopes and so on. And that's how we finally got our start metallurgically, and then that went on to the formation of ANS Research.
Wasn't that fascinating? To do something like that passionately for free, basically. I mean, he's devoted his whole life to helping other people who are abductees and have been implanted. So, good work, Dr. Leir, and I hope everybody will take a look at his website and support his cause. And we'll get some really good research going on this topic, because it's about time.
Yes, it is about time, and I think we're going to one day look back at Dr. Leir and say, wow, we remember when, because
Yeah.
there's going to be more people doing this. It just has to happen. There'll be a demand, I do believe.
Yeah, he's got some pretty good backers too. Well, the couple minutes we have left, let's take a look at the information about the Paranormal Connection, shall we? The Paranormal Connection airs Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. following Ancient Wisdom on Comcast, Channel 17 in Sacramento County. You can also watch us online. Go to accesssacramento.org and click on Watch 17. Encores of each show air Friday at 1:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. Contact me at paranormalconnectiontv@gmail.com and check for upcoming information on all of our guests at paranormalconnectiontv.blogspot.com. Join us on Facebook. Just search for Paranormal Connection. Become a friend, become a fan. Once again, you know, we're out of time, but I want to let everybody know we're going to put all this information on my blog. So go to paranormalconnectiontv.blogspot.com, and you'll have a list of everybody who was at this conference and their information, so you can contact them, look up their YouTube clips, whatever.
There's
you know,
so
just
much.
tap into it. This is just so exciting, and we were really fortunate to be able to witness and learn from this experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed we were.
Well, thank you again for coming on and helping me do this.
My
And,
pleasure.
And it's always good to see you. And listen to Linda's Scepter Radio, The Open Door. All right. And thanks to all the volunteers tonight. We really appreciate your help. So with that, we're going to say goodnight, Linda.
Good night,
All
Donna.
right.